welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to unpack some pretty interesting rumors flying around about what Apple might be cooking up next for the smart home.
That's right. And we're basing this on, well, mainly a report from 9to5Mac, which itself cites a lot of details from Bloomberg's Mark Gurman. So, pretty solid sourcing.
Okay, so our mission today is to try to piece together what these devices actually are, what features they might have, and maybe most importantly, why we haven't seen them yet. What's the holdup?
Yeah, it's not just about the cool potential gadgets, is it? It's also about the technical challenges Apple seems to be facing trying to get deeper into our homes.
Right. Okay, let's kick off with the one that sounds, well, maybe closest to launch, this kind of central hub idea.
So the first one, it's described essentially as a device that's meant to be the command center for Siri and for HomeKit.
Like the main screen you'd use to control everything.
Exactly. The main interface for, managing your smart stuff, interacting with Apple services, all while you're just at home.
And the design sounds specific. They're talking a 7-inch screen, square shape.
Yeah, square 7-inch display, and apparently with a, quote, thick bezel, so maybe a bit chunky.
Okay. And it's got a camera built in, top mounted.
Camera at the top, which, immediately makes you think video calls, FaceTime, that kind of thing.
Makes sense. And interestingly, a built-in rechargeable battery is mentioned.
Right, which is kind of unusual for a home hub. It suggests maybe a little portability. You could carry it from the kitchen counter to the living room.
Potentially. Not tethered all the time. And it's apparently running a brand new OS, homeOS.
Yes, homeOS. So this signals it's not just like an iPad repurposed. It's something built specifically for this home control, home interaction role.
A dedicated OS that really does suggest Apple's serious about this category, doesn't it? Beyond just speakers.
Definitely. And that focus on video, like FaceTime, seems pretty central to its purpose.
And the interface itself, sort of dashboard-like.
Yeah, the report mentions a dashboard inspired by the standby feature you see on iPhones now. Designed to make controlling lights, locks, thermostats, whatever, really easy.
Intuitive control, okay. And, crucially, it's meant to support Apple Intelligence.
Ah, yes. That's the big one. Support for Apple Intelligence features.
Which seems to be, well, maybe the sticking point. Because the timeline for this hub has apparently slipped quite a bit.
It has. The original plan, according to the source, was potentially a launch this spring. So, quite soon.
But now?
Now, Gurman suggests it might launch by the end of this year. That's the current thinking anyway.
Which, let's be honest, even end of this year feels optimistic. Weren't there earlier reports suggesting maybe 2026?
There were, yeah. Some previous whispers had it much further out, so end of this year would actually be pulling it forward compared to those timelines.
Okay, so it's a bit confusing, but the core reason for the initial delay, and maybe why even end of year, is TBD. It comes back to AI.
It seems to point squarely there. The report mentions Apple's, let's call it challenges with their AI rollout.
Okay, failed AI push was the phrase used, which sounds pretty strong. How exactly is this hub device tied to that?
Well, the issue seems to be its deep reliance on Siri, specifically the more advanced Siri capabilities, and something called app intents.
App intents. Remind us what those are again.
Right, so app intents are basically the hooks that let third-party apps talk properly to the system, and crucially, to Siri. It's how you'd get Siri to control functions inside another app.
Like Siri, tell my smart vacuum app to clean the kitchen.
Exactly that kind of thing. Or Siri, adjust the temperature using my thermostat app. Getting Siri to reliably understand and execute those complex app-specific commands across potentially hundreds or thousands of different devices and apps.
That's a huge technical lift, especially making it seamless on a new dedicated device.
Precisely. And those specific Siri features, powered by Apple Intelligence, were the ones expected with iOS 18.4, but they got delayed.
Ah, okay. So the underlying intelligence layer it needs just isn't ready yet.
That seems to be it. Apple themselves announced a delay for those features, saying they'll roll out in the coming year. Much vaguer. So the hardware might be mostly there, but the smarts it depends on aren't.
And that's holding back the product launch, even though apparently they already had some employees testing these things at home.
Yeah, the report mentioned an internal testing program where employees took units home earlier this year, so the physical device seems, functional. It's the AI integration that's the bottleneck.
Fascinating. Okay, so that's device number one, the hub. But the report also mentions a second, even more ambitious product.
It does. This one sounds, well, quite a bit more futuristic.
Yeah, this is one that caught my eye. The robotic device.
That's the one. Described as a more advanced smart home display, but with a robotic arm.
A robotic arm.
Well,
And a unique AI personality.
yes. So
Music
not just
licensing
executing commands, but
reimagined.
potentially interacting in a more personal way. It's quite speculative still, obviously.
Definitely a step beyond a screen on the counter. A robotic arm opens up physical interaction possibilities and the personality aspect.
Wow. It's a different direction for sure. Now, timeline-wise, this one's expected much later, maybe a year or two later than the hub.
So if the hope slips to, say, early 2026, we might not see this robotic thing until 2027 or even 2028.
Potentially, yeah. It's further down the road. But interestingly, despite being further out and sounding more experimental, Gurman describes it as a major priority at Apple.
A major priority,
Music
even with the
licensing
AI struggles
reimagined.
impacting the first device.
Seems so. It suggests this isn't just a wacky side project. It's something they see as strategically important for the home.
That's really interesting. It implies a long-term vision where maybe this kind of physical interaction and the AI presence is the goal.
Could be. Although the report also adds a little dose of reality. It says the tight timeline for this device has also meant Apple has apparently pulled some bolder features from it.
Ah, the classic feature trimming to hit a deadline. Happens all the time.
Exactly, scope reduction. Though the source does suggest maybe those pulled features could come back in later versions. Iterative hardware.
Makes sense for something this complex. Okay, let's step back a bit and try to connect this all for you listening at home. What does this roadmap and these delays really tell us?
Well, firstly, I think it strongly signals Apple is serious about expanding its smart home presence way beyond just the HomePod. They seem to be aiming for more central, maybe more visual interaction points.
Right, not just audio control. And secondly, the delays are quite revealing, aren't they? Especially for the hub, which seemed closer.
Definitely. It really underscores the sheer difficulty Apple's facing with its big AI push, Apple Intelligence, Siri, and especially getting those app intents working reliably for controlling all the different smart home gadgets out there.
It shows that building AI that feels truly smart and integrated, especially across third-party stuff, is just hard, even for Apple.
Yeah, it puts the hype into perspective. And looking at the two devices, you sort of see Apple potentially hedging its bets or exploring two paths, right? One is this more static screen-based interface hub.
And the other is this much more dynamic, physically interactive,
Music
maybe even
licensing
personality-driven
reimagined.
robot thing.
Exactly, two quite different visions for how we might interact with technology in our homes in the future.
So it really makes you wonder, are we moving towards more sophisticated screens, or are we actually going to end up with like little robot companions with personalities in our houses?
So summing up, we've got these two potential Apple devices on the horizon. The Smart Home Hub, seemingly delayed by AI readiness issues.
And then this more futuristic robotic display, which is a high priority, but maybe further out and potentially having features trimmed for now.
And the common thread, the big dependency for both, seems to be Apple cracking the code on its next-gen AI, Apple Intelligence, and particularly making Siri a truly capable conductor for the whole smart home orchestra, including all those third-party apps.
Which they've openly admitted is taking longer than planned.
Right. So as companies like Apple push these boundaries and even start talking about devices having unique AI personalities, it leaves you with a pretty interesting thought, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, thinking about your own home, if you could design it, what kind of AI personality would you actually want to live with? And maybe more importantly, what are the trade-offs we're not even thinking about yet when we invite that kind of artificial presence right into our personal space?
That's it for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to Cozy Tech Talk Podcast.
Reimagined.
If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with fellow tech enthusiasts. Until next time, stay cozy and stay techy.